There's a silence most people run from, the kind that stretches out like a vast, endless sky, suffocating in its stillness. The kind that doesn't just fall between words, it falls between souls. And it's in that silence that we start to question everything. You wonder if it meant anything. You wonder if they cared. You wonder how someone who once held you so close could now keep so much distance. And in that wondering, in that aching stillness, you begin to believe the lie that silence equals indifference. But it doesn't. Because this kind of silence isn't empty. It's full, overflowing with emotion, tension, fear, love, and longing. It's not a silence of forgetting. It's a silence of remembering too deeply. Some people love loudly. They show up, they speak up, they make it known. Others, they pull away. They go quiet. But don't mistake quiet for cold. That quiet, it's protection. It's armor. It's survival. There's a kind of person who doesn't know how to love in a straight line. Who doesn't know how to hold on without fearing they'll lose themselves. And so, instead of reaching out, they retreat. Not because they feel nothing, but because they feel everything, and that terrifies them. You see, when someone is afraid of intimacy, when someone has learned to associate closeness with pain, love becomes a battlefield. They crave connection, but they sabotage it. They long to be held, but they push away the arms that offer comfort. They want to be understood, but they vanish before the words can be spoken. So they disappear, not to hurt you, but to protect themselves from the overwhelming vulnerability that comes with being truly seen. Because being seen means being exposed. And being exposed means risking rejection, abandonment, judgment. The very things they've spent a lifetime shielding themselves from. But what you don't see, what you don't hear in that silence is the noise inside their heart. The voices telling them they're too much or not enough. The stories they carry from childhood, from broken past, from shattered trust. The guilt for feeling weak. The shame for needing space. Confusion about why they pull away from what they say they want. And the hardest part, you think they're gone. You think they stopped caring. But the truth is, they think about you constantly. You're in the songs they skip because the lyrics hit too close. You're in the places they avoid because they might run into your memory. You're in the moments when they reach for their phone and then put it back down, their fingers hovering over your name, paralyzed by fear. They don't talk, but they feel. They don't reach, but they watch. They don't return, but they remember. The silence isn't absence. It's presence without permission. It's the quiet chaos of someone loving you the only way they know how, by staying away. And yes, it's confusing. Yes, it hurts because you showed up, you gave, you didn't run when it got hard. And now you're left holding the weight of a connection that feels one-sided. But what if it's not? What if the love is still there, just buried under fear, locked beneath years of unhealed wounds? What if you were never forgotten, only hidden away in the part of heart they don't know how to open? You see, some people don't know how to say, I miss you. So they check your stories. Some don't know how to say, I love you. So they say nothing, hoping you'll still feel it. Some don't know how to say, I'm scared. So they pretend they're fine and stay silent behind walls that took a lifetime to build. But if you listen closely, not with your ears, but with your soul, you'll hear it. In the hesitation, in the delay, in the soft, invisible threads that still tie your energy to theirs. This silence, it's not rejection, it's a test of your own strength, a test of your ability to hold compassion for someone too wounded to love the way you deserve, but who still loves in the only way they can. And maybe it's not your job to break down their walls. Maybe it's not your purpose to fix what's not yours to carry. But just for a moment, just for this moment, know this: you are not abandoned. You are not discarded. You are not unworthy. You were seen. You were felt. And you are remembered. That silence, it's not empty. It's full of everything they never learned how to say. And if you felt it, if you've sat in that ache and still kept your heart soft, then you're not weak. You're rare. You're powerful. And this is just the beginning. There's a heart behind the silence. Not a cold heart, not a closed one, but a guarded heart. A heart built behind walls thick with fear, layered with years of protection, reinforced by past pain. And that heart, it doesn't stop feeling just because it stops speaking. You may never hear them say it. You may never see it in clear gestures or open declarations. But that heart, the avoidant heart, loves in a language few understand. It loves from a distance. It loves in shadows. It loves from behind the glass of self-preservation. Avoidants are not incapable of love. In fact, they are often capable of deep, soul-wrenching love, but they learned long ago that love for them is dangerous. It costs too much. It exposes too much. It demands a surrender they've never felt safe enough to give. So they build walls, not to keep you out, but to keep themselves from falling too far in. Because love to them isn't light, it's fire. And they've been burned before. They've been taught through betrayal, abandonment, humiliation, neglect. That closeness leads to pain. That needing someone is weakness. That opening up is inviting destruction. So they armor themselves. They become independent to a fault. They tell themselves they don't need anyone. But deep down, they ache for connection. And when they find it, when they feel it, it shakes them. Because someone finally sees through the mask. Someone finally touches the part of them they've worked so hard to hide. And that kind of intimacy doesn't feel comforting at first. It feels like danger. It feels like drowning. Because to feel that much is to risk it all. So they pull away. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much and have no idea what to do with that level of emotion. The depth of the avoidant heart is vast, far more vast than it appears. They don't give pieces of themselves easily. Every word they speak about their feelings costs them something. Every step toward vulnerability is a battle inside their mind. And if they ever let you in, even for a moment, you are not just anyone. You are someone who reached a place inside them that even they struggle to reach. You mattered, you touched something sacred, and that scares them more than being alone ever could. Because to love deeply means they could lose deeply. And to lose deeply means reliving every past trauma, every abandonment, every rejection they swore they'd never allow again. So silence becomes the safer option. Distance becomes the shield. But make no mistake, they feel everything. They analyze everything. They replay conversations in their mind. They notice the way you showed up, the way you offered safety, the way you didn't force but invited. And in the quiet hours when the world stops and distractions fade, you come rushing back. Not just as a memory, but as a presence, an echo that doesn't leave. They wonder what you're thinking. They wonder if you're okay. They wonder if you've moved on. And yet they don't reach out, not because they don't want to, but because doing so would mean admitting how much they care. And for someone who's built an identity on not needing anyone, that is terrifying. This is the truth. Avoidants aren't broken, they're wounded. And the way they protect those wounds often looks like apathy, detachment, or coldness. But it isn't. It's fear. It's self-protection. It's the desperate need to feel in control when their emotions feel anything but. And if you're the one they pulled away from, you need to know something essential. It wasn't because you weren't enough. It was because they weren't ready for everything you brought. Your love, your clarity, your consistency, it shook them because they didn't expect to feel so much. They didn't expect someone to actually see them and still stay. The depth of the avoidant heart is not measured by how loudly they love. It's measured by what they hide. And behind their silence, there is often a storm, a war between desire and defense, longing and fear. But here's the thing, you cannot heal them. You cannot force them to open. You cannot drag them into the light before they're ready to leave the darkness. What you can do is understand. What you can do is not take their silence as a reflection of your worth. What you can do is stand in your own truth, knowing that you love bravely. You reached into the depths of someone who wasn't sure they deserved to be seen. And whether they return or not, you show them something unforgettable. That love can be patient. That love can be soft. That love doesn't always leave. And if they ever find the courage to come back, it won't be because you chased. It will be because your presence echoed louder than their fear. And in your absence, they finally realized that the depth of your love wasn't something to run from. It was something they always longed for. You might think they've erased you, that your presence in their life has faded into the background of their world like a dream they no longer remember. You might assume their silence means you were disposable, forgettable, easily replaced. But you weren't, and you aren't, because when a connection is real, when it touches something deeper than attraction, deeper than familiarity, it doesn't just vanish. It roots itself into memory, into muscle, into marrow. And here's the truth, they haven't forgotten you. Not even close. They remember the way your voice softened when they couldn't speak. They remember the way your presence calmed their chaos. They remember your patience, your effort, your understanding. And more than anything, they remember how you made them feel seen, heard, held. Even if they never told you, even if they couldn't say the words, even if they walked away before they had the courage to express it, the memory of you lingers in places even they don't visit often. Because people don't forget the ones who held space for their truth. They don't forget the ones who loved them when they didn't feel lovable. And they never forget the person who showed them a glimpse of who they could be. If they ever learn to drop the mask, you're there. In the quiet moments, when the noise dies down, when the distractions stop working, when they're alone with their thoughts and no one's watching you rise, you appear in the silence like a ghost of what could have been. Not to haunt them, but to remind them that something real existed. That someone real existed, you. And no matter how much they try to bury it, no matter how hard they try to suppress it, love, when it's honest, doesn't die easily, it echoes. It returns in waves. You're in the songs they can't listen to anymore. You're in the places they avoid without even knowing why. You're in the eyes of strangers who remind them of your energy. You're in the empty spaces where your presence used to bring peace. And yet they stay silent. Why? Because remembering you is easier than confronting what they lost. Because reaching out would mean admitting that letting you go was never what they truly wanted. Because loving you demanded a version of themselves they're still trying to become. You see, the silence doesn't mean you've been erased. It means you become unforgettable in a way that words can't express. They may not text you. They may not call. But they think of you more often than they'd ever dare admit. And every time they do, a piece of them aches. Not just from missing you, but from knowing they weren't ready to receive what you gave so freely. They remember the effort. They remember your loyalty. They remember your truth. And they measure everything else they come across by it. But no one else fits. Because the space you held wasn't just about compatibility, it was about alignment, soul deep, energy deep, the kind of alignment that shakes people and shifts them. And that shift, it's still happening because the dynamic, they're still wrestling with it. They're still waking up in moments, replaying everything, questioning what it would have taken to stay, to choose you, to choose themselves in your presence. But don't wait for them to say it. Don't wait for the apology, the confession, the grand return. Sometimes people love you from afar, not because they don't want to come close, but because they believe they're protecting you by staying away. But protection without communication is still pain, and silence doesn't get to define your worth. You were not forgotten. You were remembered too much. So much, in fact, that their only response was to shut down. Because to remember you fully means facing their own lack of readiness. And that's not easy. That's not something everyone is brave enough to do. But here's what matters now. You don't need their recognition to validate your reality. You don't need their response to confirm your impact. You don't need their return to prove you were unforgettable. Because you were. You are. And somewhere in a place they don't talk about, they know it. They feel it. Because the dynamic. They feel it when they look at someone else and feel nothing. They feel it when a quiet moment brings a flood of memories. They feel it when they catch themselves wondering how you're doing. Not because they moved on, but because they never really could. So breathe not in hope of reunion, but in truth. The truth that your love left an imprint. That your energy shifted something in them. That your absence isn't silence. It's presence in a different form. And if they never come back, let it not be your failure. Let it be their journey. And let your strength be the story you write from here. Because while you may be remembering them in your quiet moments, they're remembering you too. And that remembrance will never fade. This was never just about love. It was about reflection. It was about what they saw in you and what that reflection forced them to confront within themselves. You didn't just walk into their life and offer affection. You offered something far more dangerous to someone who's still hiding. You offered clarity. You offered truth. You became a mirror, and that's what broke them. Not you, not your love, but the way you saw them too clearly, too deeply. Too honestly, you didn't fall in love with the image they tried to present. You saw past it. You looked right into the cracks they cover with confidence, independence, distraction. You didn't look away. You didn't flinch. You didn't run. And that kind of gaze, that kind of presence, it's terrifying for someone who spent a lifetime avoiding their own reflection because they weren't ready to meet the version of themselves that you saw. The version with potential, with softness, with the capacity to give and receive love without condition. You didn't expose their weakness. You revealed their strength. And yet, they mistook it for danger because everything about that reflection threatened the identity they had carefully constructed. You see, people who fear intimacy don't always run from you. They run from the parts of themselves they can't face. Parts that say, I'm not worthy of this love. I don't know how to stay when it gets real. I'm terrified of being known and then being left. And so they leave first. They tell themselves stories to justify the exit. They label the connection as too intense, too fast, too much. But none of that is the truth. The truth is you held up a mirror to their soul. And they weren't ready to look because that mirror didn't just reflect their beauty, it reflected their wounds. It showed them the armor they wear in relationships. It showed them the ways they shut down, disconnect, self-sabotage. And worst of all, it showed them what they could have. If they were brave enough to face it, you became a doorway, not just to love, but to transformation. And transformation always demands death. The death of who we've been, the death of the stories we've clung to, the death of the comfort zone. And most people aren't ready to die that death. So they run. Not away from you, but back into the familiar prison of their own limitations. But make no mistake, your impact remains. Because mirrors once seen can't be unseen, and truth once felt continues to echo long after the moment has passed. You didn't ruin them. You woke them. You cracked open the illusion. You shattered the image of who they thought they had to be in order to be loved. You showed them that love doesn't have to be transactional. That closeness doesn't have to mean control. That vulnerability isn't weakness. It's courage. But here's what you must understand. They have to choose to keep looking. They have to choose the growth. You can't force evolution on someone who still fears the light, because some people would rather stay in the safety of shadows than risk stepping into the truth of who they are. And that is not your burden to carry. You are not their fixer. You are not their savior. You are not responsible for their healing. You are the invitation. You are the reflection. You are the reminder of what's possible. But it's not your job to drag them through the door they're afraid to walk through, yes. It hurts to be the mirror. It hurts to be the one who saw their soul and watched them turn away from it. It hurts to carry the silence when you know the connection was real. But that pain isn't your punishment, it's your power. Because being the mirror means you have vision. You have depth. You have the kind of presence that awakens truth in others. And while some will run from that truth, others will be drawn to it. And one day, someone won't flinch when you see them. They'll lean in. So let this be your reminder. Their inability to face you was never proof that you were too much. It was proof that you reflected too much of what they weren't ready to face. Don't dull your shine just because someone couldn't stand in your light. Don't distort your reflection to make others more comfortable with theirs. Your clarity is sacred. Your truth is rare. And your love, it wasn't wasted. It was a wake-up call. Maybe not for them, not now. But one day, when they're ready to stop running, they'll remember you. They'll remember what it felt like to be seen, really seen and still loved. And when they do, it will hit them. You weren't a mirror they had to fear. You were a mirror they weren't ready to honor. Maybe they never came back. Maybe they're still out there caught in their silence, pretending the connection never mattered, pretending you didn't shake the ground they walk on. And maybe you're still hurting, still looking over your shoulder, wondering if the story has another chapter. But here's what you need to know now. More than ever, their silence does not define you. The way they left, the way they froze, the way they failed to show up when it mattered, none of that is a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of where they are, where they're stuck, what they haven't healed, what they weren't ready to hold. But you were ready. You loved anyway. You stayed soft anyway. You showed up anyway. And now it's time to rise anyway. Even without the apology, even without the closure, even without the clarity that you deserve. Because closure isn't something they give you. It's something you give yourself the moment you decide that your healing matters more than their silence. Yes, you're allowed to grieve. You're allowed to ache. You're allowed to miss what was and dream about what could have been. But you are not allowed to shrink. You are not allowed to stay stuck. You are not allowed to put your future on hold, waiting for someone else to finally see your value. Because your value is not on layaway. Your life is not a waiting room. You are not someone's maybe. You are not the backup plan for someone too afraid to choose. You are the fire they couldn't stand too close to. You are the mirror they weren't ready to face. And now, you are the force that refuses to be frozen by someone else's fear. You rise. Even when it hurts, even when it's lonely, even when the silence feels deafening, you rise. Because you remember who you are. You are the one who stayed steady when the ground shook. You are the one who didn't run when love demanded vulnerability. You are the one who had the courage to feel it all. And that makes you rare. That makes you powerful. Because the world doesn't need more people who ghost when it gets hard. It needs people like you. People who stay conscious, who stay awake, who choose truth over convenience, heart over ego, growth over fear. So take your power back, not with revenge, not with bitterness, but with boldness. Let your healing be loud. Let your joy be unshakable. Let your next chapter be so full of life that no one can mistake your silence for suffering. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to keep moving, keep building, keep showing up for yourself this time. Because they may have pulled away, but that doesn't mean you have to disappear too. They may have chosen silence, but you still get to choose your voice. They may have left the story unfinished, but you still get to write the rest. And maybe, just maybe, this had to happen. Maybe you had to be abandoned to remember how deeply you can anchor yourself. Maybe you had to be pushed away to see how firmly you could stand alone. Maybe love wasn't lost. It was rerouted back to you, to your strength, to your healing, to the version of you that no longer waits for permission to thrive. Because sometimes the people who leave are the ones who unknowingly lead you home, and home isn't them. So rise, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, not to show them what they missed, but to show yourself what you're still capable of becoming. You didn't lose love. You gave it fully, honestly, freely, and that love doesn't expire. It doesn't weaken you. It doesn't make you foolish. It made you brave. It made you honest. It made you exactly who you needed to be to reach this point of no return. So rise with the wisdom. Rise with the scars. Rise with the fire that was never meant to be extinguished by someone else's fear. And know this, they may come back or they may not. But it no longer matters because you are no longer standing still waiting for them to choose you. You are choosing yourself. And that choice, that's where your story really begins. Enough of the overthinking. Enough of checking your phone. Enough of reading between the lines of silence, trying to decode what someone else was too afraid to say out loud. You've waited long enough. You've paused your life on the off chance they might come back. You've dimmed your light, softened your power, and questioned your worth, all in response to someone else's inability to love you the way you deserved. And now that stops. No more waiting. No more holding your breath, hoping their silence breaks. No more fantasizing that one day they'll wake up, realize your value, and come running. Because here's the truth. Anyone who truly sees your worth doesn't need time to validate it. Anyone who's ready doesn't walk away from what they want. You don't need someone to choose you to feel chosen. You don't need someone to validate your experience to make it real. You don't need someone to come back in order to move forward. The power you gave away, you're taking it back now, not with anger, not with resentment, but with clarity. Clarity that you were never the problem. Clarity that you loved deeply, fully, fiercely. Clarity that your presence wasn't a mistake. It was a mirror, a lesson, a catalyst. And if they weren't ready for it, that's not your burden to carry anymore. You are not here to fix people. You are not here to wait on the sidelines of your own life. You are not here to settle for half connection, half truths, or half love. You are here to rise, to expand, to burn, to live wide open. And that means making a choice right now. No more waiting, not for the text, not for the apology, not for the moment they finally get it. This moment is yours. You've given your energy away long enough to ghosts, to fantasies, to people who didn't have the capacity to hold what you were offering. Now that energy returns to its rightful place, because you don't chase love anymore. You embody it. You attract it. You live it. You are done contorting to fit inside someone else's fears. You are done holding back to keep someone else comfortable. You are done letting the past define your potential. And maybe you still feel something. Maybe the love is still there, still alive in the background of your heart. That's okay. Love doesn't disappear just because it isn't returned. But from now on, that love is for you. You pour it back into your dreams. You pour it into your body. You pour it into your future, your growth, your calling, because that's what rising looks like. Not perfection, not pretending you're unaffected, but choosing yourself in the face of it all. And one day, when you're standing in your purpose, when your eyes shine not because of someone else, but because you remembered who you are, they might look back. They might remember. They might regret. But by then, you'll be too far ahead. Not out of pride, but out of alignment, because you will have finally stepped into the version of you that was never meant to wait. You were meant to lead, to heal, to awaken, to live. And this right here, right now, is your turning point. So breathe deeply, feel everything, and then decide you will not wait another minute. You will not shrink another inch. You will not question your worth another day. You are not meant to be an afterthought in someone else's journey. You are meant to be the fire in your own. So take that step, say the thing, cut the cord, write the chapter, build a life that doesn't ask anyone's permission to shine. The past may have shaped you, but it does not own you. And silence doesn't get the final word anymore. You do, and your word is this: I will rise, I will heal. I will no longer wait for the love that couldn't stand beside me, because I am the love, I am the power, I am the truth. And starting now, I choose me.